For centuries, historians have spoken about a place that once held the knowledge of the ancient world. A place where scholars gathered to study the stars, the earth, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. A place that may have contained hundreds of thousands of written works from civilizations across the Mediterranean and beyond. This place was known as the Library of Alexandria. In the ancient world, it was more than just a library. It was the greatest center of learning humanity had ever built. But at some point in history, the Library of Alexandria disappeared. Its scrolls were lost. Its halls fell silent. And much of the knowledge it once held vanished with it. Even today, historians continue to ask the same question. How much knowledge was lost when the Library of Alexandria disappeared? To understand the story of this legendary place, we must travel back more than 2,000 years. The story begins in the year 331 BCE. At that time, a young Macedonian king named Alexander the Great was conquering the Persian Empire. His armies had already marched across Greece, Asia Minor, Egypt, and parts of the Middle East. Alexander was not only a military leader, he was also deeply influenced by Greek culture and learning. During his campaign in Egypt, he decided to found a new city along the Mediterranean coast. This city would serve as a major port connecting Egypt with the wider world. He named it Alexandria. The location was ideal. Situated between the Nile River and the Mediterranean Sea, Alexandria quickly became a center of trade and travel. Merchants from Greece, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia began arriving at its harbors. The city grew rapidly, becoming one of the most important urban centers of the ancient world. But Alexander himself would never see what Alexandria would eventually become. Only a few years after founding the city, he died unexpectedly in 323 BCE at the age of just 32. After his death, his vast empire was divided among his generals. Egypt came under the rule of one of those generals, a man named Ptolemy. Ptolemy established a new dynasty known as the Ptolemaic dynasty, which would rule Egypt for nearly 3 centuries. Unlike many rulers of the ancient world, the Ptolemies believed that knowledge and scholarship could strengthen their kingdom. They wanted Alexandria to become the intellectual capital of the entire Mediterranean world. To achieve this vision, they began building an extraordinary institution. This institution was known as the Mouseion. The word Mouseion means the Temple of the Muses. In Greek mythology, the Muses were the goddesses who inspired art, science, literature, and learning. The Mouseion was designed as a place where scholars could gather, study, and exchange ideas. It functioned almost like a university. Scholars lived there, worked there, and taught students. Within this complex stood one of the most famous buildings in history, the Great Library of Alexandria. Unlike modern libraries, which store printed books, the Library of Alexandria stored knowledge in the form of papyrus scrolls. Papyrus was made from a plant that grew along the Nile River. Sheets of papyrus were pressed and dried, then written on using ink. These sheets were rolled into scrolls and stored on wooden shelves. Inside the library, countless scrolls were organized by subject. Works on philosophy, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, poetry, and history filled the shelves. The exact number of scrolls remains unknown. However, many historians estimate that the library may have contained between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. For the ancient world, this was an enormous archive of human knowledge. But the Library of Alexandria was not simply a place where texts were stored. It was also a place where new knowledge was created. Some of the most brilliant minds of the ancient world worked within its walls. One of them was Euclid. a mathematician whose work would influence science for more than 2,000 years. Euclid wrote a book called Elements. In this work, he organized the principles of geometry into a logical system. Even today, Elements is considered one of the most influential mathematical texts ever written. Another remarkable scholar connected with Alexandria was Eratosthenes. Eratosthenes served as the chief librarian of the Library of Alexandria during the 3rd century BCE. He was fascinated by geography and astronomy. At a time when much of the world was still mysterious, Eratosthenes attempted something extraordinary. He tried to measure the size of the Earth. Using simple observations of shadows in different cities, along with geometry, he calculated the Earth's circumference. His result was astonishingly accurate. In fact, his estimate was surprisingly close to modern measurements. This achievement demonstrated the incredible level of scientific thinking that existed in Alexandria. Other scholars studied medicine, engineering, literature, and philosophy. Ideas were debated in lecture halls. Texts were copied and translated. Knowledge flowed between cultures. The rulers of Alexandria were determined to make their library the greatest collection of knowledge on earth. They adopted an ambitious policy. Every ship entering the harbor of Alexandria was searched for books. If officials found manuscripts or scrolls, they were taken to the library. There, professional scribes carefully copied the texts. The copies were returned to the owners, but the original versions were kept in the library's collection. Through this system, the Library of Alexandria rapidly expanded its archives. Scrolls from Greece, Egypt, Persia, and many other regions were gathered in one place. The library became a meeting point for knowledge from across the ancient world. For generations, Alexandria thrived as the intellectual heart of the Mediterranean. Students and scholars traveled from distant lands to study there. But no center of learning is immune to the forces of history. Political conflict, war, and shifting power would eventually threaten the great city. And one of the first major threats came in the 1st century BCE. In the year 48 BCE, the Roman general Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria. He had become involved in a political struggle for control of Egypt. During the conflict, fighting broke out near the harbor of the city. According to several ancient sources, ships in the harbor were set on fire. The flames spread along the docks and into nearby parts of the city. Some historians believe that these fires may have damaged warehouses that stored scrolls connected to the Library of Alexandria. If true, this event may have destroyed thousands of valuable manuscripts. However, the full extent of the damage remains uncertain. What historians do agree on is that the story of the Library of Alexandria did not end in a single moment. Its decline was likely slow and complicated, and the events that followed would eventually lead to the disappearance of one of the greatest centers of knowledge in human history. Although the fire during Julius Caesar's time may have damaged parts of Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria did not disappear immediately. Many historians believe the library continued to exist for generations after that event. Scholars still studied there, manuscripts were still copied, and Alexandria remained one of the most important intellectual centers in the ancient world. However, the political landscape around the city was changing. After Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, the priorities of rulers slowly shifted. Large institutions dedicated to scholarship no longer received the same level of support as before. Over time, maintaining such a vast collection of scrolls became increasingly difficult. Another major transformation occurred during the 4th century CE. By this time, Christianity had become the dominant religion of the Roman Empire. Many temples and institutions connected to older traditions were closed or abandoned. One important building in Alexandria was the Serapeum, a large temple that may have housed part of the library's collection. In the year 391 CE, violent conflicts in the city led to the destruction of the Serapeum. If manuscripts connected to the library were stored there, many of them may have been lost during this event. But historians still debate whether this moment marked the true end of the Library of Alexandria. The truth is that the library may not have been destroyed in a single dramatic disaster. Instead, its disappearance was likely gradual. Fires, wars, political changes, and simple neglect may have slowly eroded the institution over centuries. Papyrus scrolls were fragile. Without careful preservation and constant copying, they could easily decay and vanish with time. As the institutions that supported scholarship weakened, the vast collection of texts may have slowly faded away. By the time later historians wrote about Alexandria, the great library had already disappeared, and with it, an enormous portion of ancient knowledge may have been lost forever. Within those scrolls could have been scientific discoveries, historical records, philosophical ideas, and cultural knowledge from many civilizations. Some of those works survived because they had been copied and preserved elsewhere, but countless others likely vanished with the library. Yet the legacy of Alexandria did not disappear completely. The idea of gathering and protecting knowledge continued to inspire later generations. Libraries, universities, and centers of learning spread across the world. Even today, humanity continues the same mission that once existed in Alexandria, preserving knowledge for the future. In the modern city of Alexandria, a new library now stands near the Mediterranean Sea. Opened in 2002, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina was built as a tribute to the ancient center of learning. Its shelves contain millions of books, and its digital archives connect to knowledge across the world. Although the original Library of Alexandria is gone, its vision still lives on. A vision of a world where knowledge is preserved, shared, and passed on to future generations. Because the story of the Library of Alexandria reminds us of something important. Civilizations may rise and fall. Cities may vanish. But the pursuit of knowledge is one of the most powerful forces in human history,